Morning, guys. Typhoon Teddy here. For us here in Lipa, it was a non-issue. We've had storms where there was no typhoon that were about the same. We had a little bit of wind. Most of the day we just had drizzle like it's been for the last on and off week. It's just it drizzled most of the day. And then later on in the evening we wound up getting some winds, but nothing more than we ever had before. I mean, we've had, anybody who's been in this house knows it's windy here. You know, I've actually had to close the doors up and the windows just to keep from blowing the pictures off the wall. Yeah, it just gets pretty breezy here. So we didn't really have it. We had some heavy rain for a while. Wind for a couple hours, but last night it was 2, and then you look at the clouds on the mountain there, that's kind of ominous there. But I got up, it was 2:30, there was no rain. It was nice out here. It was cool though. Before we started getting the rain, the high winds, the temperature dropped a huge amount in it seemed like 10 minutes, when that thing hit. But I'm seeing Manila didn't even get the crash that bad. High winds, some roofs off. But this is something that, this is really minor. I haven't heard of any deaths or anything. But like I say, we had some wind, blew a cabinet over, and it was mainly because of the, it was top weighted. My wife piles everything on top of stuff, so there was no weight on the bottom. So when the tarp blew, it just knocked the thing over. No big deal. It was no big deal at all. Just stand it back up, and nothing that was hurt. And the only bad thing was trying to sleep last night. I'm a little bit tired now because when it rains here, when it rains that hard, it's thunder up there. It doesn't even matter if you go downstairs. If you go down the dang stairs, it's just as bad. It's just a big echo chamber up there. It would have been nice if this company that builds these places would live in them for a while, so they could see how ridiculous these places are because of the, it just was so loud. So I really wasn't getting anything. For a while there during the storm, we had the TV up to 100 and still couldn't hear it. I wound up just shutting the movie off. My son and I were watching that movie, Toy Soldiers, where they get the military chip and put it in the soldiers. Tommy Lee Jones was the army guy, and it was Maddie liked it, but we were missing a lot. We might have to watch it again, but it was kind of cute. Our net flickered a few times. We kept power the whole time. I know I was talking to Tropical Tim, and he said, their power's been on and off and stuff, so it's a good thing he's got that generator down there. We got a lot of night crawlers, a lot of them out. Shaky likes to get them. We were actually getting a bunch of them and throwing them in the grass, because they're just going to dry up and croak. But they're great for fishing. Here, that's something I've noticed, guys. I lived in the States. I went fishing quite a bit. People went fishing, ponds or lakes or even by the ocean. When I was down in Florida, you see people surf fishing. California, same thing. Here, I've seen probably twice in 10 years somebody fishing. They just don't seem to be fishing. And if you go to a store like fishing tackle and stuff like that, it's basically non-existent. You can order the stuff and get it, but that's something I wouldn't mind doing some dang fishing. And but it's just not a big thing here. They don't do recreation like that. You don't see a whole lot of water sports here. They have places for tourists where you got jet skis and parasail. Morning.
Morning.
And you see a bit of that, but you don't see them doing it that much. It's like few and far between that you got places like that, and it just seems odd to me. But that's how she goes. But like I say, guys, I'm just saying that the Typhoon, pretty much non-issue here, and I haven't heard of any deaths or anything. Roofs blown off, trees blown around, but it kind of sputtered. It was a pretty good storm, and then right after it hit landfall, it just started breaking apart. And now I'm even seeing it's weak. But you look at the day we're having now. It's beautiful. We got a nice breeze. Sun feels warm. That stuff over top of the mountain, though, anytime I see that, You know, they're big white fluffy clouds, but we usually get rain when we see that. And the way the wind's blowing, I mean, that wind right now is blowing right in my face, so that's going to come over the mountaintop today. I haven't looked at the major cloud satellite to see what we have around us. I know Tropical Tim it was raining pretty good out his area, and you know, different people were telling me that, yeah, we're getting quite a bit of rain, but like I say, non-issue. Nobody worry about it. It's not like some of these that came through here where the people need relief and all this kind of stuff because such devastation. This one, I think they'll be bounced back by noon with what I saw. I did put a little bit of news on them, was watching, and all the news channels had the same stuff on, the same damage, you know, like they're trying to sensationalize these few little points of damage we saw. But the one thing that really, you know, I like to watch on YouTube, you know, on that Westpac WX, because on the even on the TV channels we got here, they'll have a newscast that's in English that I can watch, and it's great. But these Filipinos, they always flip over to Tagalog. They'll be talking there, and in the news today, and I just wish that's something I've noticed in my lifetime. I lived in Southern California for a while, and I knew a lot of Mexican folks speaking Spanish, and they spoke good English too, and they never split their language in the same sentence, where they started speaking Spanish and then switched to English and switched back to Spanish. I knew some German people. I knew some folks from France. Never heard them do that. And I was up in Montreal quite a bit. A lot of French speaking up there in Quebec. Never heard that. They either speak French throughout the whole thing or they'll switch to English. They don't mix it. But what you find out when you come here to the Philippines, and I've never heard it anywhere else in my lifetime, they constantly switch. I used to listen to some channels. There were some, the Jennifer Terry was one, the Filipina P. You know, you get a little bit of information from these guys. And I was liking it because they're telling you about the travel and all that. And I'm not kidding you, I switched from one to the other, and I said, you know, I'm getting sick of this. I'm just done. I just unsubscribed to them both. I haven't watched them for quite a while now because they do that. They do that, and it's kind of aggravating. I'd like to get some information, and they start feeding me. They tease you with a little bit of information, and they just completely quit. So I just got rid of them, you know, with this switching over to Tagalog. But that's something also, you know, I never really thought about it much until just recently, and it happens quite a bit. I've even seen it just talking to some Filipinos. They'll start doing it. They'll switch talking to me, and I'm like, I don't understand that. Some of it, but you know, maybe it's because they can't find the word in English or something. But most folks can speak English. I used to think that the English, you know, some of them were super good, but the longer you get to know somebody and talk to them, it's my wife's pretty good at English, but I'm be honest with you, I would honestly say out of all the people I know, she's probably the second best Filipino that's lived here, that's lived in this country and never left, for English. I know some guys that lived in America for quite a while. They're fantastic, but I mean, out of the ones that's been here, she's probably the second best I ever heard, and I would honestly say she knows about 5% of the language. You know, it's constantly, even the kids, they're constantly asking me what a word means when I speak, and it makes for a tough communication problem where you know, every time you say something, you either got to change your language or you have to, you know, I used to say, just write it down and go look it up. It's hard to get a point across when somebody doesn't understand you, and that's a shame. And it happens quite often here. So no, that's going to happen. But I did talk to somebody who's been a subscriber too, and he said, hey, I'm gonna Typhoon, I'm gonna send you a bunch of money to help you clear up. And I was no, wait and see what happens, guys. Be careful with your pocketbook on this. I'm sure there'll be some you know, nefarious people saying it was terrible or something like that. But do watch that Robert Spetta Westpac WX weather. it seems pretty good. But they did call this thing, it was, when it was coming to land, it was a Category 5, which is the worst. And of course, I was getting notifications on my phone, beep, beep, beep. And you can't turn that notification off, these ones that come from the government. I got every notification now. I just did that yesterday. Turned every notification in the phone off so this thing would shut up, this phone. And you can't turn that one off. When they send you one of these texts and here's the thing, it's all in Tagalog, and you can't answer them. I tried to send them a note back saying, quit sending this to me. I don't know what the hell it says. It's from the National Weather Advisory Government Grand Poobahs or some baloney like this, and it's like, I don't want this. Send me something in English, and that'll be fine. But I usually got to show it to my wife, and it's constantly. Last night it sounded like Christmas time, the way. And that's the other thing too here. By the way, guys, it's since a couple of weeks ago, everything's going Christmas here. They don't have a Thanksgiving. I know in the States they'll start Christmas around Thanksgiving or when it's over, but not here. It's not like that. They started in September. There's already, you go up into town, there's already Christmas music. So that's how it's been ever since I've been here, coming here though. Ever since I've been here, they really start their Christmas early. But that's the way she goes. But the guys are all out working. There was actually guys last night and yesterday afternoon. We had drizzle. It wasn't really bad, and heck, the guys were over there sawing stuff for the roof. My brother called, and I wanted to talk to him, and there was like nowhere you could go because he had his chops all going, and he was cutting the roof, and that was. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I told my brother I'll have to wait. He said, well, I'm going to bed. I'll see you later. But it's just, they never stopped. They never stopped working. It was a Sunday afternoon. We were getting a little bit of rain from the storm, and I guess they were trying to finish up. But they do other stuff too, like that I'd like them to quit. I mentioned to them, they started parking the big trucks on the end street and kind of out from the side, and you can't get past. And I says, hey, can you guys not do that? And the guy looked at me and said, oh, they're so friendly. They're smiling. Oh, just go the other way. Well, no, I don't want to go the other way. I already drove all the way down here. And then yesterday, they blocked the whole street off down there. I don't know if they were doing it for spite or they're just ridiculous in their brain. But blocked the whole street off. And I was like, okay, they put their stupid cement mixer. And I don't know. Maybe it's good they did. Who knows? There's probably a bunch of nails on that lower road. But turning around these streets, when it comes to the Philippines too, when you get into a development, these streets, I've mentioned this before in the vlogs, these streets are ridiculous. This street isn't too bad. This one, it's a main one. But look at this. You look down this street. I just got a little tricycle. Wait till the cars park on the other side. What are we going to do here? I'm going to be glad we're getting out, I'll be honest, because there's going to be no parking. It's nice these folks don't have parking, but if this person here gets a car, and then the one right next to us and the one after gets a car, we're going to be screwed. We're going to be screwed for parking, and then there's going to be people on the other side that might want to park, and I do not want to park my car inside of there. That's right on that septic tank, and I don't trust their roofs they put on the septic tanks. So, but the other thing too, guys, knowing that there was this big typhoon coming around, when you go, Tropical Tim did it on his place, but when you go to put a roof on, insulate the crap out of it. You don't have to worry so much for the heat, because it dissipates pretty good. We don't really have a problem with heat here from the roof anyway. You could even put your hand on a super hot day up on the you can put it up on the ceiling, and it's not hot. It's vented well, and it just doesn't get hot. And that dark roof, it's making the heat go up, so it's cooling. But I would go with some kind of a corrugated to keep the water on an angle, and then insulate the crap out of it. And then instead of using this snare drum ceiling material, I call it, I would go with like a drywall or something. Get some gypsum board. They sell it here. I've seen it, so you can get that here and hang that. I wouldn't do any wood up in your roof because them termites will get it. I mentioned this in a vlog the other day, and I want to show you this. This was something I set out for a day. I only just set it out because it was kind of in the way. So I set it outside for just a day, and I was going to put it back in the cupboard where I took it out of. But I have a spare, and okay, it's my little water filter. I had this spare one ready to go, and it's got the little hole there. And look how the termites got in there. Look at that. They got in there, and that only sitting there a day, guys. I mean, they're coming in and they're looking for a place to go. So don't do anything with wood. I did some wood stuff here, and what I did was I got jeepney oil. You can't find orange oil here. I got jeepney oil, and I set them up on end. I set the wood on end, and then after a few hours, when it soaked up some of that old jeepney oil, I turned them over and I soaked the ends. That's the most important part. And then I put it on a sawhorse and I painted them. I painted them with that oil, let them sit to dry in the sun as best they could, and then use those. And I don't think the termites are going to be bothering them for years. I don't know how great that would be on the fire code, but that's another thing you don't hear about here compared to the States is really bad fires. I think since we've been here, the areas we lived, there was just a couple. One of them was, he was a fellow that, he was well in between gas stations. And so what he was doing, filling up 2-liter bottles, and guys would pull up on tricycles and motorcycles and buy a little bit of gas from him. You know, he had prices for a 2-liter bottle and stuff like that. And he had a fire, just wiped his house out. And there was another fellow doing the same thing way on the other end of town. Those are gone now because they got a gas station over there. But he was doing the same thing, and he had a fire. So, but you don't really hear about in these developments where a house just gets engulfed. It's all concrete. I got to go in there and get a switch. You know, I'm hitting the switch and you can hear it sizzling. Since we've been here in this house, we've had how many receptacles fried and switches. You know, they put them in here. You're lucky if you're going to get a year or so out of this stuff. It's all made in China. You can't buy, you cannot buy a really good one. If you want to put good switches in your house, I would highly recommend you bring them from the States. And if you can find double pole, double throw switches, bring them. And bring extras, because you'll be able to sell them. You'll be able to sell them to folks, okay? Because they're like gold here. You can't find, I have never found them here. I've even looked them up on Lazada. I looked everywhere for them. What they do here, morning. What they do here is you got your 2 hots. So they run one of them into the switch, and they break the switch. Okay, when you open the switch, you've got one hot that's not hot anymore, and you got the other hot going up to the light. Now it's not enough to make the light work, okay, because nobody's using incandescent anymore, but you still got a hot leg. So even if you open the switch and you climb up by the light, you got a hot one that's going to zap you. Everywhere I've gone is done this way. Everywhere. They don't do double pole, double throw switches. I said, man, if I can't get them, I'm thinking in my other house, I'm just going to put a double switch tied together like you do a breaker and have 2 switches. Because when I turn the power off, I want it out. We got a kitchen light and lights upstairs. When you turn them off, they're not really off. They're still glowing. Now I've seen some where you cut the power completely, they'll glow for a minute. You know, kind of like your watch when you hold it in the sun. But these things, you come down in the morning, that one in the kitchen is still on. It's because they haven't cut power to it. And I don't understand why there would be, I don't think there's any electricians that stay in it long enough to be able to speak to anybody on this. But, you know, why would you want to go to work on something that's hot all the time? The only way you could stop it is turn the breaker. And here, they never gave me a schematic on the house about where the plugs are, what plugs are on what. It's a tiny house, and there's a lot of breakers. And they did do the things I wanted, like the fridge was on its own. AC, well, the ACs were on their own. But it's funny. They'll do, instead of the living room on like a breaker, no, It's not like that. There's one plug in the living room, then there's one up in the bedroom, and then there's that one in the little bedroom is on one breaker. And then when you go to flip a breaker off and go test everything again, there's another one that's off in the living room, you know, and then there's one outside. There's no method to the electricity, and but make sure you do insulate the heck out of your roof. Do your own, or get somebody that you know to do the electric. I got a buddy, Sean, now. He's pulling his hair out because they're building the place right now, and he's not here to do it. It's going to be like a retirement place, and you know, he's looking at what they're doing on pictures and videos, and he's freaking a little bit. But I was telling him, hey, that's just the way they do it here. You know, they're from what I see to construction, there are some houses that are done right. I absolutely believe that. But I've seen more that, like this place, that are just done like crap. And they do, and different construction companies different. Now this house over here, they did a crappy work on the block. It was Wes and me were looking at it while they were building it and just shaking our heads. But what they did was they put the block up, and then as they get the block up, then they put from the block where they got these stanchions. See those stanchions that are going up right there? What they do is they'll run their rebar from the block through there, and then they'll put some wood around it, and then they'll pour those stanchions with concrete, so they're tied really good into the block. The concrete goes right to them, and I thought, okay, that's going to be pretty strong. Now this company that came in to do it, they put the stanchions up first, and those blocks are not tied into those stanchions at all. They're just butt up against them. And I'm thinking, you get an earthquake or something, that whole wall could fall out. There's really nothing holding it. That we've been watching them. We've been watching them do this, and I'm like, I don't think if I was getting anything built, I would want to do it the way they're doing this one. And it's the only one in here they're doing it. And it's going up quick. I got to admit, it's going up quicker than the other ones, but I don't know, guys. I think I would, if I seen somebody, a construction guy doing it that way, I don't think I would ask him to come build me a house, because that just don't seem strong to me. I know when we were coming through here, just from the pictures, they had the rebar going right through. I'll show you what I mean here. What they do now, I can't really show you on this one because there's not two, but what they'll do is they'll run this block all the way up, and then the block will be here. This will be open. It'll have its big rebar piece. You can see those rebars coming out the top, and then they'll put a board here and here, and then they'll fill that whole cell with concrete. And the rebar, every so many blocks, is going through, and it's got plenty of mesh in there. And very strong. I think it's the way to do it. You're not going to pull that wall down unless you pull the stanchion down. And these things go deep into the ground. You know, they're like you might say the footer. And then underneath the places too, they put these, I call them pillows. They dig down in here where the stanchion are, and they put this big heavy-duty pillow. It's got to be 4.5 feet by 4.5 feet, and it's like a big pillow that they fill with concrete. And they make the rebar. Morning. They make a big rebar pillow thing that they tie together, and then they fill that with concrete. And I'm looking at it going, okay, that's a footer. I still like to call it post and beam. And then they'll tie those together with concrete. They'll tie those pillows together. Under the ground, they'll run. It's post and beam. That's what I know. And they'll tie them all together. And I'm like, hey, guess what? This is a really good foundation. I don't think they're doing a bad job on that. So, but enough of me. I'm going on and on this morning. I'm gonna let you go. And there's my little buddy. And what can you say?